Mira Business FM, your daily guide to the markets, money, and more.
On the morning drive next, how is Ramadan 2026 reshaping consumer behavior and also marketing strategies across not just the GCC, the UAE, but also the GCC? From evolving spending patterns to the shift in advertising, impact, businesses are kind of rethinking how they connect with consumers during perhaps a more meaningful month for many. So lots of insights around at the moment, lots of newspaper articles, magazine articles. There's the latest Ipsos Ramadan report, an industry report. So what do brands need to know to succeed this season? Now, Dr. Sourjo Mukherjee is Assistant Professor of Marketing. He's at the University of Wollongong in Dubai, and he is something of an expert on consumer psychology and market trends in the region. With me in the studio. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Tim. Very nice to be here.
It's good to have you here. I'm interested in this because, you know, Ramadan is such an important time for so many people, and there's kind of I don't want to use hipster phrasing, but there is certainly a vibe in Ramadan. It's a different feeling for the month. So let's start with this. How have consumer priorities and spending behaviors shifted during Ramadan this year compared to previous years?
So if we look at the recent consumer surveys, one thing is for sure, and which is good news for the business community here, that more than half the consumers, I think the figure is around 58 or 60% consumers say, they definitely spend more during Ramadan than usual, and perhaps more than the year before. And only less than 20% say they're actually going to spend less. So we are expecting a surge in business. But where we do see a change is how that spending is going to happen. One of the priorities that comes up consistently across different surveys is the spending is going to be more intentional rather than being impulse-driven, being in the moment. And I think that is going to drive consumer behavior and how brands are responding to that. To adapt to that.
Can you give me an example of a more intentional approach?
Let's take the most common example, retail, right? If you go to the hypermarkets and all. Close to half the retail shoppers in surveys are saying they will strictly follow shopping lists. Now, that is a huge number if you see this kind of very intentional behavior. And if you see across surveys, a very small number of people actually say, no, in this time of the year, I'm more impulsive. So people actually cut down on their impulse and become more planning oriented. And this necessitates a change in how brands are also communicating with consumers compared to what we see year round.
See, that's interesting to me because the kind of perceived wisdom of when to go shopping is you go when you're not hungry.
Exactly.
Because if you go when you're hungry, you tend to buy things that maybe you don't need that take your fancy. And I would imagine in Ramadan, people are hungry. I mean, naturally you are when you fast. But I suppose, so that's kind of counterintuitive, but at the same time, the point of Ramadan is to try to understand and be at one with people who have less than you. So is that part of what drives that intentional?
Yes, and a related kind of data that we see across consumer surveys and the consumer sentiment we see in social media is there is this feeling among people that over time Ramadan is becoming more and more commercialized.
Sure.
Whereas, as you very correctly pointed out, it is a time to kind of slow down, look inwards, and focus on the values rather than materials, so to say. So I think in people's mind, they try to kind of balance between the two. And as we said, it is not reducing the amount of consumption. It is just channeling the consumption in a different way.
I mean, that kind of points. So I don't mean to butt in, but that kind of points to the atmosphere, if you like, during Ramadan. That you're kind of thinking a little bit more about others, the way other people feel, and that's most people would agree that that's kind of what they're doing. That's front and center of mind, isn't it?
Yes.
And I suppose if you're inviting people over for iftar and for suhoor, and you're sharing a little bit more, because it tends to be a sharing time, then you're more intentional in that you're thinking, well, Muhammad's coming tonight and he likes this, and then Saha's on the way, and so that's kind of the pointedness of it.
Absolutely. So this is where consumers want brands to kind of help them in this hosting, in the sharing, because one thing that we have seen in earlier years as well, and I'm sure will be the trend this year as well, is when it comes to food, for example, the focus shifts to in-home, right? Hosting people and so on. So you as a brand, how are you helping consumers to make their life easier during this month in this hosting? Be it in the kind of assortments, in the kind of bundles that you are selling, be it reducing the amount of effort through different services you may be offering. So your focus have to shift to that, and not only necessarily in price promotions. Yes, price promotions are important for budget-conscious shoppers when people are becoming more planned. But it is not only about saving on money. It can be about saving on effort. It can be about saving on time. So a wide variety of services have the opportunity to become very relevant.
You see, that makes sense to me. And I very often kind of look at marketing and I don't really understand whether it's a science or an art or a dark art, but that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of I suppose in a way, lots of what we've kind of been trying to discuss there are behavioral changes or changes in attitude, aren't they? But what other kind of behavioral changes identified in these consumption reports should marketers be paying more attention to, do you think?
So there are two things I would highlight here, and which are related, is in the nature of promotions. If you see year-round in different seasons, the kind of promotions that are run, one of the most common kind of promotions we see are what we call time scarcity ones. That, hey, there is a time-limited deal, buy before this or your benefit runs out, right? This 20% discount runs out, stock out, and so on. And that's a way to attract consumers in other times.
Yeah.
Like those kind of offers do not go with the spirit of Ramadan and the mood of it. If you want to rush people in a time when spiritually they are in a completely different mood, as you were saying, the vibe is to slow down, is to spend more meaningful time with family and close ones, friends. So there, you are not matching the vibe then.
That's a very good point. I mean, also, you're tired as well. Fasting, if you haven't eaten, you're more tired. You're thirsty.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So it takes a lot of cognitive load in people's mind to process those kind of fast-paced promotions. So this is not the time of those fast-paced promotions. This is the time of more value-based promotions. And we must not forget, it is not about just selling during Ramadan. This is a time where you can, as a brand, actually show to people you are doing meaningful work to help the consumers. And the value-based connection that you make here in this month can help you have a stronger reputation, stronger connection with those consumers year-round. So I think that is an opportunity.
So at a time when it's you're kind of feeling good about your fellow man, woman, if you like, you make that connection, and that forges a stronger connection down the road. That's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the thing is, people are spending. There are increased marketing budgets, sales budgets during Ramadan, of course, but the traditional advertising tactics, no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you see the ad spending patterns, there are slightly different data available in different sources, but approximately the ad spend goes up by more than 250% during Ramadan. That's a lot of clutter. And again, you see the surveys, people say, oh, there are too many ads. But funnily enough, it doesn't mean ads don't work. 52% also say yes, they see ads and they buy directly during Ramadan, seeing those ads. So it is not about just spending, it's about how are you standing out from the clutter, right?
Yeah.
So this is where, as we were saying, some of these strategies of not focusing on immediate promotions, but talking about the season in a way that matches the vibe becomes extremely important. So it is also important to diversify the channels through which you talk to consumers. Like, don't, if you are on Instagram, yes, meta ads are very powerful, but you need to diversify because you know the more popular channels are going to be more cluttered with advertisements.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, TV and, TV dramas come into their own a little bit more in Ramadan. And that's a traditional kind of, it's legacy media, isn't it? But it's a very traditional way to spend Ramadan with family and enjoy. I remember a few years ago, there was a particular Turkish drama that was huge. But that is a thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. So going back to good old school media, this is a wonderful time because that is one kind of media where you can play it and all of you spend time together. So yes, we need to prioritize the new media, digital media, and so on. But we shouldn't forget about the classical old school media that gives you a lot of exposure and meaningful exposure at the right time when people are in the right mood. Just being in the background, just being there, because there is a lot of value in just being there, right?
Well, you can see the benefit, can't you, of legacy media in that case, because it's about sharing, that appointment viewing thing of let's watch, whatever the particular drama is at the time, and people sit down together, and it's not, the solitary experience of, guy in coffee shop on phone. It's a very different attitude. What kinds of messaging or what kinds of creative approaches resonate most during the holy month, do you think?
I think here, if I go back to the surveys, you will see from more than 80% people do talk about the fact that this is the time when people spend more time with family compared to friends.
Yeah.
So very traditional family values, kind of reminding people about the heritage, the traditions, that kind of storytelling is important. But at this time, you were talking about earlier that, whether marketing is a science and an art. And here the art aspect of bringing that out in an authentic manner is what matters. This is where good creative, good storytelling matters instead of, seeming opportunistic. That kind of relational approach is very important during this time.
Okay, do you mean things like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, I can't think of a particular advert, but in my head I'm thinking, grandchildren and family, and then the grandparents are there, that the kind of connection, almost generational.
Yeah, yes.
That kind of style.
Yes, and also in the spirit of giving, if you see, Taliban did it last year, and in the recent report, they have also talked about, they have partnered this year as well in an initiative, what they called Hero Meals. So where consumers, when you are buying any delivery products, you can contribute a part which goes to fund iftar meals for the delivery heroes. So it's a very meaningful way to connect your normal, usual delivery behavior to something of a giving behavior, and in an area where these companies have legitimacy, because these delivery heroes help them run this business, which helps consumers, and they give the consumers an opportunity to help those delivery heroes back. This campaign was very popular last year, and I recently read a report on one of the newspapers that they have renewed this partnership this year. So these are also examples of very value consistent messaging, value consistent programs that work well during this time of the year.
I mean, that's a really good example because it's a good thing to do, but it's also kind of the right thing to do. So
Exactly.
that fits well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things is, obviously, you mentioned 250% up in terms of spend.
yes.
So there are clearly some commercial objectives there. That's a commercial opportunity, but you've got to balance that with the being authentic culturally, being appropriate culturally, haven't you? Because if it's a little bit too obvious that this is our time to coin it, as it were, the potential is to alienate people, I think.
Yes. If I can add here, one of the other trends in this promotions that we see is what happens in influencer marketing during the month of Ramadan. That, we have a lot of partnerships that brands have with influencers where they focus on content being posted and through that driving actual real sales, because it is important for companies to measure what is the effect that the spending is having on their returns, right? In terms of higher revenue, higher sales, higher number of consumers getting onboarded. Now, one of the trends that we see during Ramadan, that the conversion does not happen directly from an influencer posted content, directly in terms of sales. Okay. What happens is influencer-driven campaigns are still relevant, but it has some stages in between. As we were saying, because people become more intentional and planned, they take that information, they go and execute search in different platforms. It may be on the retailer's website and all, and they share that with their near and dear ones. As you were saying, it might be with family members, right? Who are the relevant others, whose preference I'm trying to cater to that. Hey, would you like this? And then the sales happens not through a direct connection, but through a delayed one.
So we're back to that kind of more intentional thing.
Exactly.
You're banking the information.
Exactly.
With the intention.
Yes.
At some point. So the research is done kind of thing.
Yeah. And marketers, that's why also have to change their approach in terms of how they measure the effectiveness of their media spend. So if you see how we plan our media buying, it is often, what is leading to sales? So if you only care about the last click that led to my sales, you might not see the effect of the influencer spend because the click did not come directly from that video or from that affiliate link.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So you have to be very mindful about, this is a cascading of information. This is not just the last click that is driving all my sales. So what we are essentially hinting is not focusing entirely on performance marketing, as they say, into a more looking at the consumer funnel or the consumer journey overall.
Okay. See, in my head, I'm picturing Ramadan as a time when, if you're on your phone, it's put your phone down. It's iftar. It's that because it's, you're be a bit more reflective, be part of the moment a little bit more. Seems to be one of the attitudes. Yes. And it leads me to a final question, really, because we haven't really got much more time. How do you see consumer engagement with social media platforms, social commerce, digital platforms how does it change during Ramadan, do you think?
I think just taking forward your point, what you said, that, if during the meals I'm using my phone, put your phone down. That happens very often. So the timing when people use or consume media on their own, that timing shifts rapidly. Right. So that goes after Taraweeh. So later during the night, let's say post 10 p.m. and actually till up to 2 a.m. in the morning is when there is a lot of these individual consumption of media or complete absorption with screens happen. Right. So if you are a media buying manager, you have to plan the timing accordingly compared to the rest of the year.
So there's a whole lot of posting going on later in the day.
Yes.
Right, I've got you. That's so interesting. Look, we've got probably a minute or so, Sourjo. What kind of lasting shifts in consumer behavior do you expect this Ramadan? Anything that's going to push the industry forward? Any changes you think or you expect to happen?
I think not just in Dubai, but across the region, one trend that we see is people being very careful about the cost of living increase. And here we also have the government working with a lot of retailers to monitor prices and all. And when people practice such kind of intentional behavior throughout a month, oftentimes some of those behaviors stick. So going forward, we might see people in general being more planned and more mindful of value. And by value, it is not just, again, economic benefits, but benefits in terms of time and benefits in terms of effort going forward. And brands would have to be careful about those time scarcity promotions only to be more helpful in different ways, comprehensively.
Well, I guess the hope is always that, at times like this, I mean, Ramadan is one example, Christmas is another example, two different festivals, if you like, but the overall kind of ethos is kind of similar in that, you're probably a bit nicer to people.
Yes.
Hopefully that can extend beyond, into the year, into the rest of your life. That would be an ideal. So that makes some sense. It's interesting. It's food for thought, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Dr. Sourjo Mukherjee is Assistant Professor of Marketing at the University of Wollongong in Dubai. I really appreciate you coming in this morning.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you. Good to speak to you. It's Mirror Business FM.